Welcome to Game Crunch, your weekly video game podcast. My name is Mike Anastasia. With me today, we got Brandon.
Hello.
And we're here talking about games and things.
Games and things.
Things and games.
Yep.
Let's see what's on the agenda today. Stellar Blade, Pokemon, Switch 2 rumors, Paper Mario Thousand Year Door updates.
Yep.
Those are all things we'll probably talk about during this episode. And more. So much more. You ready to get started?
Yep.
All right. Well, I'll let you go first. Give us your update on Stellar Blade.
Oh, okay. So I played Stellar Blade, a lot of it, like a whole lot of it. Like, I think I am 30 plus hours in, and I have some thoughts on this.
Pretty significant amount of time, yeah.
Yeah. So first and foremost, the music it's going to be hard to top this music this year. This music is fucking incredible. It is made by one of the same studios that did Nier Automata's music. So it's already really good. But on top of that, the actual lyrics, I think, of the songs fit very well with the themes of the game. And the game is way deeper than it has any right to be for something like this, basically. So without spoiling, which is very hard to do, it deals with themes of loss of faith in humanity, in God, in just people in general, even loved ones, that sort of thing. It has a lot of moments to do with that. It shows a post-apocalyptic world at its worst, where people feel like they've been abandoned by their gods and deities and whatnot, and then those people kind of run off to do their own thing, while the rest of the people that firmly believe in something that's being preached to them hold up in one city. And you kind of are working towards finding out what's actually going on. So you have to hunt down these enemies. Nabitas? I don't remember exactly how it's pronounced. But anyway, there are these big monsters that have shown up that are terrorizing your people. And there's actually a reason for it, and it's very interesting what the reason is. So yeah, you and the other people that are the last humans alive are hunting down and trying to kill these monsters, because you're one of the last angels that survived the war, essentially, where it was a war between the Nabitas and the Angels. And the Angels are like an air squadron, essentially, that are specifically designed from birth to be military fighting machines, more or less. And that is what you play as when you play as Eve. You have another friend whose name is Taki. At the beginning of the game, she just gets slain right in front of you, and so is the rest of your team. So then you're kind of all alone, which also adds to the oppressive and just depressing elements of the game itself throughout the whole game, because you are pretty much alone. You meet up with two other people who, they help with your journey, but they're not your people. And yeah, it's very interesting. The gameplay is a mix between Nier Automata and a Dark Souls or a Souls-like game. It's not all Souls elements, but you got things like your bonfire. You got things like different ways you can play it, but it's instead of through it being linked to your gear, it's linked to the skills that you choose and that sort of thing. And there is sort of a stamina system, but it's not actually a stamina system. Essentially, there's a poise system, which is a lot like the system that they used in Sekiro. And then on top of that, there is also the elements of a stamina system, because different enemies have to be defeated in different ways. They have different blocking and attack mechanics. There's different ways that you have to dodge different attacks and that sort of deal. It's very good. The bosses can be kind of challenging at times. You feel like you're getting more powerful as you continue on in the game. There's lots of really interesting things that are going on in the world itself. It's 4 big open zones, essentially.
Yeah.
That you can fully explore. And it's a very, very, very good game. I currently don't think this is my favorite game that I've played this year,
Mm-hmm.
but I have not fully finished it because I've chosen not to. Mostly because there are multiple collectibles that you can get in the game as well, and there's all these little codexes that you can pick up from different people as you go around and do side missions. I just finished every single side quest last night, so I've finished all the side quests, including the fishing side quest, where you have to catch one of every fish that's still in existence in the post-apocalyptic world, and that was fun. You get costumes and other items whenever you finish these kinds of quests.
Mm-hmm.
I really, really like this game. It may end up being my favorite by the time I fully finish it. But like I said, I went and did all the side quests. I'm probably going to do New Game Plus. I am trying to collect all the soda cans now because there's this one element where there's a collectible of soda cans. And you may be like, hey, what's the reason that these soda cans even matter in universe? And they actually thought of that, which is kind of interesting. Seems that back during the crypto boom, soda companies decided to start printing NFTs on the cans. So because of that, in this world, because of that, you can actually get data and upgrades and stuff by collecting all these soda cans, because of the data that's left over from the NFTs that they printed on the soda cans in universe, obviously. And it's super silly in some cases, like that kind of collectible, but it actually has a meaning and it's super neat. Overall, I didn't like the English voice acting that much, so I changed it back to the original Korean voice acting.
Oh.
So yeah, I did that with subtitles. It's not bad. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just, I would say, with the English voice acting, one of the big revelations that comes later in the game is kind of immediately ruined for you because it's very obvious. So I was just like, yeah, well, I already know this is coming, but I also would like to hear what this sounds like in the other language. So let's do that. So I did that instead. There's a lot of elements here that are very mysterious to the point where you want to explore this world, you want to see what's going on, you want to find out what happened to the people that came before you, and the fact that it actually does answer all of those questions is pretty fucking cool, and the answers are really interesting as well. Like I said, gameplay is phenomenal for a Souls-like kind of game. I do think this is a great game just in general. It does have some issues. Some of them are just entire stages. There's one stage that I can only call a transitional stage because it's very clearly meant for you to go to this place so that you can access something so that you can go to another place. But that's treated as an entire stage. And because of that, it feels like it's busy work.
Yeah.
Whereas I could have been oh, this is a 10 out of 10, 9 out of 10, whatever. I would 100% deduct points just for the sheer fact that I have to actually do busy work to continue in the game. We talked about a few weeks back that one of those games that has that moment, because you always play a game and it has that one moment where you're like, shit, I gotta do this again, as opposed to other ones there it feels like everything's there for a reason. And that entire stage is that moment, in my opinion. There's a lot of flipping switches, going back and forth, doing this, that, and the other, and it just doesn't feel as good. So, yeah. I think it's probably going to still be one of my top games for this year, though, because the combat is just so fun that it really minimizes the annoyances, essentially. I do think it's just in general a great game. So yeah, that's how I feel. I would like to talk more, but a lot of the things I really want to talk about are super spoiler heavy. So I'll wait till a few weeks or something, or maybe talk about it again at the end of the year. Who knows? We'll see.
Yeah, wherever it ends up going. What else? Anything else?
No, that's literally all I've been playing.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have a ton to talk about what I've been playing myself. Well, probably less because I've just been wrapping up Pokemon still. I'm like done. Well, at least with what I had been doing. So I had been, what was it? Just kind of working through it and touching up some of the Pokedex stuff. Just getting some legendaries or some alternate forms from Scarlet and Violet that I had missed originally when we had gone through when it came out. So been kind of doing that. I know I talked last week about like the epilogue and the extra DLC stuff. So I finished up that with that, and then I was like, oh, you know what? I got those last bits of Pokemon I need. I'm like, I got everything, and then I was like, oh, I probably should, bring this around full circle, go back to my main file, and just kind of finish up the things that I had to do there. So that's kind of what I did. And then as I was going through, I was like, oh, I probably should, get these like other forms. I'm like, oh, I needed this Hoopa form, which I had the Hoopa, but I didn't have the thing for it, and I didn't realize that they had added to the game. Apparently, I was kind of oblivious to some of the things that they added with the DLC as well. So just kind of went through and got that. And again, Pokemon does this thing where it's like, we talked about the last, I think, 2 weeks, that we'll do it again this week just because. Not always very respectful of your time. Because there was one Pokemon that I needed had like a 1% appearance rate. Like, what the fuck? Trying to catch these things over and over again. And plus, they weren't super common to begin with. So, yeah, that's kind of frustrating. But the big things are just kind of getting that all sorted up. So, I've been doing that. I've been kind of rearranging my Pokemon on home, getting them all organized so I can make sure that everything's in there like it should be, and just have it a little bit cleaner looking. So it's interesting what Pokemon I've caught on my own and which ones I kind of have like weird ones for. Almost every single Pokemon that I have in my like normal, like my complete like edition they're all like caught from the games. But I have like 2 Pokemon that for whatever reason the only version I have is either a Go version, which it's fine, it's Pokemon, but I don't like the Go ones. The other ones are occasionally there's very few Pokemon, but they do exist where it's like I'm not the original trainer and I've never caught them myself. And it's just I've only obtained them through trade, which makes sense. There's a few that are like that. And that doesn't necessarily bug me too much, but if they have a dumb nickname, it pisses me off. Because I did find that I had one Pokemon yesterday that I must have gotten a trade and someone gave it a dumb nickname, and I hate it every time that those pop up. So there's that. So I've been keeping myself busy with that. But game wise, I don't think I have any reason to go back to Scarlet and Violet anytime soon now. Got all the things I wanted out of it. I did that. They even redid this weekend. They did the Walking Wake and Iron Crown, I think is what it was. Pokemon events again, because those were originally just after launch with those kind of special Suicune and whatever that other Pokemon is, like the Paradox versions. So that was kind of cool that just kind of timed out that way. So I got myself another set of those. They only let you get one per save file, so it was just nice that I just happened to be playing in the other copy of the game at that time. But yeah, it's good. I think overall, my thoughts on Scarlet and Violet as a whole are pretty high. I did really notice too when I was playing through this time, like it's very subtly much better than it was at launch. Definitely still some issues there, but not the type of bullshit that we were seeing where like everything was glitchy at launch. Definitely still some rough edges here and there with like the frame rate, but for the most part it is much more playable than it had been previously. Then trying to think, like Pokemon wise, I mean really at this point in terms of I got what I really wanted out of Pokemon. So right now for me game wise it's just biding time until the Paper Mario comes out, because I am pretty excited for that. We're going to talk about that probably immediately after I finish talking about Pokemon, because it's up in the news this week. So that's really exciting for that. Although I might still go through and just fuck around with Legends for a little bit. Also, too, there's like 2 updates for Vampire Survivors suddenly. They did like a free update yesterday with a new stage and some new things.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Contra update is coming out
on the 9th.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep,
So
yep.
super soon. That's also exciting. Um, I'm pretty excited for both of those. So, but I haven't played through the update yet. So, but it'll be nice. It's usually those are fun to muck around with.
Hmm.
So there's that, and I think that's it. I don't think I have anything else. Unless you have any questions, I can answer.
No, I got no questions about that.
Yeah, I almost so once this is at least Pokemon wise, once I'm finished organizing my box,
Yeah.
I should have almost everything I need. Everything I can catch reasonably. The only things that I Pokemon I don't have currently just kind of floating around in my collection. I'm missing 2 Pikachu's with hats, and then one form of the legendaries, but it's one of the ones I should be getting in Go once I'm finished that with that event. So, not too worried about that. And then, yeah, that's kind of where it is. So it's a little
Okay.
exciting. I did think too. I was thinking about this actually, just maybe kind of side thought as well. But I wonder what they're going to do with the next mainline Pokemon game, because it should be a big one. Because it's the next one's Generation 10, and also will be their 30th anniversary. I wonder if they'll do something big for it. I feel like they should. But I was thinking this weekend, and I was like, honestly, I don't know why they don't draw out these expansion packs like a little bit longer with the game.
Hmm.
Because it's like right now, it's like, oh, we start with like 300, then it'll do like an expansion pack, like, oh, here's 200 more Pokemon. Oh, here's another expansion pack, 200 more Pokemon. But it's like, why not just do like 2 more expansion packs just to finish it all up? And then give the time a little bit, give the game a little bit more time, just kind of as like their big thing instead of always rushing into whatever's next. It is kind of nice that last year we didn't have like a mainline Pokemon game. It was kind of nice that they just really the extent of last year. I think it was just the DLC. Yeah, because they didn't have any no new big games, at least as far as I can recall. And but I hopefully this time that they're using goes towards making a better whatever's next. So like the Pokemon Legends, super excited about that, and whatever Generation 10 is. And hopefully it has some nice surprises. Anyways, you ready to move on to news?
Sure.
All right. Yeah, so a bunch of news things. I just talked about Paper Mario. Nintendo did kind of a. I know they
Yeah,
did a press.
but I think we need to talk a little bit more about Paper Mario also, because you didn't talk about, well, at least not entirely about what I was thinking we were going to mention.
Which part?
Mostly the frame rate and other changes.
No, that's what I was talking about. All those things that they just talked about in the trailer and showed off.
Well, okay, all right. So, okay, I guess my question would be about that, because I did want to actually say this.
Mhm.
How how much of an impact on the timing elements, like the timing button presses, that sort of thing,
Mhm.
which are special moves and yada yada
Yeah.
yada, do you think the change in frame rate will have?
Do not know. So
Because that's my main fear, because the game was made in 60 FPS. The original game on GameCube is 60 FPS. So the timings that were for the GameCube version are no longer the same as the ones that will be on the Switch version.
correct.
And as such, I feel like that could be a bit odd, because of the fact that they were timed that way for a specific reason, and just kind of halving the frame rate and then being like, yeah, we had to cap that 30. Like, is that going to induce some input lag on the timing of those sort of moves and whatnot? I don't know. I actually, when I saw it, I immediately thought, I have zero interest in this game now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I still feel the exact same way.
I did see one of the previews I saw said that they visually
Hmm.
they felt that the timings were a little bit softer, like it gave a little bit more wiggle room. But they were like,
Interesting.
yeah, they were like, that's what it seemed like. They did not seem to think it was because they were really pushing Nintendo about the difficulty, and that was kind of one of their takeaways. Because they're like, well, you didn't, because their thing was you didn't make any substantial difficulty changes to say Mario RPG, and they just
Hmm.
remade that in the fall. But the quality of life changes inherently made the game easier. They were kind of like, what do we expect from this? And Nintendo was kind of like, well, we can't go into too much, but they're like, yeah, there is definitely some quality of life changes, and some of them may affect the gameplay, but they're like, we don't really expect the difficulty to change too much. But they're like, some of the quality of life changes that we made inherently could make the difficulty easier. So it's kind of hard to say right now, I guess, overall. But your criticism is not invalid. Like, it definitely is something that's A, been noticed, and B, kind of been pointed out. At least that
Yeah.
the changes in those things are going to make some difference. But how much so, I don't know. And it even sounds like, too, the previews that they had weren't hands-on enough for them to really ascertain that on their own. Like, how much of a change it's going to be. So kind of hard to say for sure. But yeah, no, I don't know. I'm still excited about it regardless. But what?
I'm tempering my expectations now. Like it went from absolutely need this to I'll just wait.
Yeah, it's not like, hey, it's not like the game's gonna get magically any cheaper or more expensive if you wait. So.
Yeah, I mean, like I mean, like probably won't even buy it till like the end of the year, basically. So that's like my thoughts on it currently. I don't know. And then I also have the feeling of like I just don't care about the Switch right now, like at all, in any way, shape, or form. Knowing there's another one coming out in the future because of all the rumors and everything, having like headway right now more so than it ever has before, and all this other shit that's going on, it's like, why would I even buy a normal Switch game right now? There's no fucking point.
Also true. And it was a good segue, but I'm not taking it yet. So,
oh shit. Okay. Well, I was trying. I tried.
It's okay. I still have more to say about Paper Mario.
Okay.
Because there was a bunch of stuff there, but yeah. So they did their kind of more concise and vague. They did show off some nice quality of life stuff though. Like, you can change your partners on the fly now with I think it's the D-pad ish thing on the Switch. So instead of having to go into a menu and change things, you can kind of just do it on the fly as you're going. They made a quick help button, like if you need to speak to Goombet to kind of get some help, like she's available now. There's a button dedicated to that instead of having to like go and talk to her specifically. So that's nice.
Speaking of Goombet,
yeah.
They removed the cat calling.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like the enemies would cat call her to like do the whole like make angry thing where it's like, oh, focusing on this one because they're catcalling and whatnot. Yeah, that's not in the game. But then one of the other crazy things that they added back into the game from the original Japanese version is the transphobic content.
Oh, well, I guess that's the thing with this one. Apparently, from what
which is really weird.
Yeah, apparently they relocalized the game based on the Japanese script. So even like some little changes, like I don't remember what the big dragon, like that first big boss you fight is called. I don't remember what his name is. But like even to the point that in like the American version, he was afraid of snakes or spiders. But in the Japanese game, he was afraid of amphibians and frogs, and that's what they changed it back to in this game. So definitely seems more like it's. My guess is they probably just reframed everything back to the more of the Japanese like original as opposed to where it was. So definitely will be some changes in that regard too. And they're also being cryptic about like, I guess they asked Nintendo about like post-game content similar to Super Mario RPG. And Nintendo's like, wink wink nudge nudge, guess you'll just have to wait and see when you get the game. Well, yeah, of course. It's almost it would be more surprising if they didn't add anything, because every time they've remade anything, they've added something. So they do not seem to be content ever just to like release something as is. So my guess is we'll probably see some new game content there too. I did like the new content in Mario RPG, so hopefully, something similar, but I would be happy with like new difficulty modes, things like that. Hopefully they give a little bit more thought to it, but unknown at this point. But we'll know soon enough because the game comes out in less than a month. So
true. True.
Yeah. And then speaking of, we were talking about the Switch rumors, bunch of stuff there.
1080p screen.
1080p screen, 8-inch screen even too. It's a little bit larger than the Switch screen. they did say it's going to be compatible with all of the like Joy-Cons and controllers. So that's good. So, if you already have some, you're not going to have to go out and buy like 10 new ones. Although they did say that there's going to be new Joy-Cons that use a new method to connect. They said it's like magnetic rails.
Okay.
So it's apparently those are supposed to be much, what's the word I'm looking for? Much harder to like disengage on accident. Like they hold very well. Don't slip around
Yes,
as much.
that's definitely the reason why they're doing that.
Well, just one of the reasons. I'm not saying it's the only reason. But so less likely to fly off there. But they also supposedly there's new buttons added on. I think like one button on each side and the front, and then like an extra trigger.
Okay.
Is what it sounds like, or maybe an extra L and R button, something up in that area. Like it looks like there's an extra button there, and then another button on the front, kind of where like the home and the screen capture button are. And those ones, I don't know. People have lots of theories about what they may be, but no one knows. They did say that the place where the games go in does seem like it would be compatible for Switch 1 games, which makes sense because the rumors right now that it will take Switch 1 and Switch 2 games, but there'll be a physical difference in the cartridges to prevent it from going in the other system, which is not surprising because Nintendo's done that since the Game Boy Color. So makes sense on that regard. I'm trying to think. I feel like there was one more piece to the rumors, but those were the big ones. Oh, and there might be another delay on the system. I don't know if that was in there too, but it could also be.
Probably not, but there it is.
Probably not. You don't think there's going to be another delay? Or
No. Probably not there, but probably not. Oh God, what was I going to say? I definitely think there's going to be another delay, but yeah. I don't really understand what I was saying. Probably not, but there it is. Because what was the last thing you had said?
Oh, I said I feel like I read it. I think maybe what you were saying was I'm just guessing because I think I said I think that was kind of rumored as well, but I don't think it was mixed in with the rest of the rumors that we were just talking about.
Because I definitely think there'll be another delay because I don't think it'll. I think which one will we get first, Silk Song or the Switch 2?
Good question. I think it'll be Switch 2 because I'm pretty sure Silk Song is vaporware at this point. But
yeah, I don't think Silk Song exists.
But it's like we talked about before. Nintendo is like they're in like the perfect spot right now. There's no rush. Like Sony and Microsoft have no fucking clue what they're doing. So they're like, oh, okay, we can just kind of slow waltz into this new generation on our own timing. So. Yeah. And really it's just getting software ready. That's kind of what they've been working on. But if everything's backwards compatible, puts less strain on them as long as they can, make it. Especially if they can do kind of, hey, improve specs on the new system. You hope they would, but who knows? So, yeah. I think that's all I had to say about the Switch 2.
All right. Yeah, I don't really have much to say about the Switch 2 either. I don't know. I feel like it's going to be way less of a big deal than people are thinking, and I feel like a lot of the original Switch games are still going to run like ass on the Switch 2.
Yeah, I would be, unless Nintendo's going to go through and patch things like specifically, I would be surprised if like first-party software notices any upgrades, unless they were thinking about it beforehand.
So here's the thing, right? If the way I see it right now is if the Switch 2 does not do anything to improve original Switch games, then they've pretty much shot themselves in the foot again already. And the reason why I feel that way is because right now a lot of people are like, I like Bayonetta 3, but I'll wait to finish it when the Switch 2 comes out. I'll wait to play it when the Switch 2 comes out because it runs like trash on the original Switch. Or I like this game, but it runs like trash on the original Switch. I'll wait for the Switch 2. I'll wait for the Switch 2. It's the same thing a lot of people are saying about the PlayStation 5 Pro. They're like, oh yeah, this game only runs at 30 FPS. I'll wait for the PS5 Pro. And none of this is confirmed or guaranteed that it will run at 60 on other like the Pro/Next system. So I think it's just everyone's inferring and just assuming that these games should. And I think if it does not, then it will be such a letdown that I think they will see like a lot of backlash, to be completely honest.
My guess is they'll probably just do the lowest denominator, which will be like, hey, we'll run it through this, like DLSS or something. And
DLSS wouldn't be the lowest denominator. That'd be
Well,
FSR or XEE.
well, whatever the Nintendo version of whatever they probably will have on their platform will be. But I would expect that. But I mean, and that it's just because I'm not crazy and thinking it's going to obviously make the image look a little bit better, but it's not going to do much for performance overall, right?
No, if a game is uncapped, or if they have a way to uncap games, if you run it through like FSR or DLSS, the way those work is they reconstruct the image. So let's say you do like DLSS balanced mode. DLSS balanced mode is 50% of the original image. So what it does is it takes that original image, so let's say 1440p, for instance, because I play on PC. So my 1440p image gets taken down to 50% of 1440p, and then it gets re-upscaled digitally through AI to my 1440p again. So because of that, it's a lower scaled image overall natively, but the AI is upscaling it to a higher scaled image. So because it's a lowered scale image, it does run better. It does get higher frame rates. It does work, but it's kind of a little bit softer for like the image quality. It's not as sharp and crisp when it's re-upscaled, because you're upscaling a lower image than the 1440p image that you originally had to my 1440p monitor now. So half of 1440p is the actual image, but it's being upscaled to my current native monitor. So say, for instance, if the Switch Pro, whatever the fuck they're calling it, ran at 1080p and they did DLSS balanced for every single game, it would give you like essentially double the frame rate or double the performance in some way, shape, or form. But the image would not look 1080p. It would look 720p like you have on the original Switch's screen right now. So I don't think a lot of people would notice the difference. But I do think that people would be like, they'd be able to tell the difference if they do change it where it like actually upgrades the gameplay quality. Because there are plenty of games right now on Switch that I think are great, but just should not be played right now because they can't be played. So if they do something like image upscaling for the Switch Pro, Switch 2, whatever the fuck they call it, and they do allow it to do those performance boosts where like you can get that 60 FPS locked on something like Bayonetta 3, I do think that would be like a game changer for the Switch just in general.
Yeah, I mean, it could be. I mean, it's optimistic, but it could be nice.
I mean, it is optimistic because Nintendo would have to allow it to happen, and that's the problem.
Exactly. But who knows? I think the other wild card that we don't know right now, also too with the Switch 2, and in terms of like what its outlook is going to be, is we really don't know what the new president of Nintendo is like in this regard. So because a lot of the Switch development, I think, probably still would have occurred under Iwata initially, at least kind of like that. Those kind of getting those plans together. So this one, it's that whole new management team. I'm sure the old favorites like Miyamoto and everyone else are probably involved in some of the decision making there. But kind of what the overall goals of the company are with the new system. It'd be interesting to see what they end up doing. So it's kind of hard to guess. This with this president, it seems like, I would say underneath him, it seems like he's been maybe more attuned to some of Nintendo's shortcomings with what they have. But I do feel like they've really done well at shoring up their software pipeline a lot more. They've been very consistent with getting stuff out fairly regularly and making sure there's always kind of a flow with games that are coming out. But it will be interesting to see if their hardware philosophy has changed at all as well. So, kind of what their priorities are and what their goals are for the new system. Because I don't know, we really don't know, and we really don't see too much of Iwata was very like public facing when he was the president of Nintendo. Like I always kind of felt like what he's working towards, what his goals are. He's kind of out there and letting people know. The new one you don't see that often. Occasionally pop out for a direct, but he really doesn't talk. He doesn't seem like he seems like he's more of a behind the scenes type president. He likes Miyamoto or some of the other players to kind of take the front line and do things. So I don't know. It'd be interesting to see where it ends up coming. I also think too maybe the fact that they're really taking their time with this and not rushing it out the door, pretty telling too. I don't feel like we've had a system like that in a while. Like they usually,
yeah, maybe
like Nintendo wise. Feel like a lot of times they put out things at like inopportune times. Switch maybe not as much. I feel like that maybe was a more well thought out launch because they had a pretty solid pipeline. Like that first year of the Switch was like unprecedented.
It was. I do feel like that was a lot of a honeymoon period still, because like looking back at it, I've talked about it before. Like the original Switch had lots of launch issues. We had Switches bending. Remember that? We had the poor frame rates on Breath of the Wild, but no one gave a shit because we had Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, and it did
like,
patch it.
Taking a step back and like looking at it for what it was afterwards, it's like that was kind of unacceptable. At least those two specific things, especially having your Switch bend in the dock just because of the heating.
Yeah, but there's always those kind of weird manufacturing issues. Like remember when what was it the Xbox Series? What was it the X?
You can just say Xbox. You can say Xbox anything. Also, you're gonna say the Series X with the smoke coming up the top of it. That was proven to be fake.
Yeah.
It was literally someone vaping into their Xbox, and then they fucking posted it for clout.
Yeah. Usually there's those kind of. Usually,
yeah,
no,
there is. There's absolutely. There's absolutely defects a lot of the time. I mean, there was the ROG Ally recently where it gets so hot it would melt people's SD cards inside the system.
Yeah, that's a good example.
That's really bad.
That was really bad. That one's like, oh, we didn't do anything to like test us. And granted, there is always going to be, and I feel like these manufacturing issues in like the launch window are always kind of amplified because everyone's excited about it. And you think about it, like how many people's Switches actually bent? Probably enough that it made a headline, but not so much that it was like a widespread
You want to know the funny thing about that?
Huh.
The only reason I knew the Switch bending was real and not some bullshit that was being passed around on Twitter is because I know the original person that had his Switch bend. He's one of my really good friends. And he's the first person that posted the picture to Twitter /Reddit of his Switch being bent. And then Kotaku literally stole his photos and used them in their article without ever speaking to him. He still got his bent Switch. It's fucking hilarious.
Oh, really?
Yeah, to this day, he kept it. He's like, I don't know. It's like, it's something weird that he can talk about that he has. Yeah. It worked still. I think his fiance currently uses it to play Fortnite.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. I mean, a lot of times too, even despite the manufacturing issues, Nintendo's hardware generally seems to be pretty resilient.
Yeah, I mean, I would say so. I think the Switch had some really great games, really great ideas, and then you got stick drift, you got bent Switches, you got poor performance, and then you actually take a step back and look at it. It's like something that should have been like S tier of a console generation. It's closer to like a B because of all the issues that it's had throughout the gen, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's not unreasonable.
When I would rather play Switch games emulated on my Steam Deck than on an official Switch, you've done something wrong. That's my main takeaway. You've done something wrong. If I'd rather go through the dumping of Switch games from original Switch cartridges, and then putting them on my Steam Deck and playing them, because something that is not the original hardware can actually run the original hardware better in a way that doesn't even make any sense because it's running off of Linux, and Linux, even though it is very good for tinkering and changing things and doing this, that, and the other. Linux is like very much so a power user kind of platform. And the fact that you can kind of plug and play Switch emulation on a power user platform that's supposed to make things more difficult because you're supposed to already know how to do this, that, and the other. And they just fucking work better than the original Switch. That just seems like you fucked up. That really seems like you fucked up, Nintendo. I feel like the Switch wouldn't have been so heavily emulated if it wasn't for the fact that it was so poor in performance on the official hardware.
Oh,
Yes, there still would have been emulation, but I cannot tell you the amount of people that I have seen that have been like, "Oh, this game looks good. What? It runs only at 30 FPS. Pirating it." Like it's so weird. I've never seen another console generation in my life where people would be like, this game comes out next week. I already have it. I pirated it because it's going to run better than it is on the actual console that's being released for. That's not normal. That is just not normal. Normally, when a game console is currently in production and currently in existence, if any form of emulation for that game console existed, it would be in a very poor state. But it's better than the original hardware. And that really tells you all you need to know about the Switch.
well, I mean, that's really telling about, I think, just about the hardware and just how much time has changed too. Because because you are right. Like, obviously, if it was say, like, even if it was easy to like have an emulator running, if it was power comparable to something like a PlayStation 5, not going to be as easy to do just because people don't have the hardware to do it.
I don't fully understand what you're saying, but what? what do you mean by that? I don't actually.
Oh, well, what I'm saying is just the Switch is just so much more low power compared to like your standard new machine. Like if you're
but like even 3DS took a while to get emulation up and running. Like there was only one 3DS emulator for the longest time, and it wasn't that great. But like Switch is just like there's like 10 of new ones a day, and they run better than the console every single time a new one's made.
Well, also though the 3DS though piracy was super easy on the system itself. So
it is on the Switch also. It's like super easy on the Switch. It is. True. That's the reason why I brought up the railing thing about the Switch too, because you can literally put a paperclip into the railing of the Nintendo Switch and do a few things, and then bada bing, bada bang, you've got the entire thing modded. It's like, I'm not going to give all the details because I don't want to get in trouble, but it doesn't take that much to mod a Switch. It's super easy.
Yeah, no, I understand that. Though, actually, I guess maybe the other side, though, too, the 3DS also not as... I'm trying to think. I think form factor-wise is probably just more ideal to play on the actual platform, too.
I think the easiest... I think the easiest way to play modded Switch things... Well, I guess is with like the Switch Lite. Switch Lite is awesome. But my main thing I was gonna say is whereas the 3DS is easier to play on the 3DS than emulation, which is what I think you were going for. I do think that the emulators that we have for 3DS have made it so two things. It proves how useless in some cases the bottom screen is.
Yeah, true.
And two, it also made it so it's actually more convenient to play it on emulation than it is on the original console. For multiple reasons. One, with the press of a button, you could swap between both screens, so it's more like an inventory like that you're opening up than actually having to have a second screen below.
Boy, you are not trying to tell me that it's more ideal to play on a different system that doesn't have the two screens. No, I will not accept that as an actual answer.
With some games, let me finish. All right.
I could asterisk anything like that.
There's some games where the bottom screen's completely unnecessary.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with you there. But...
And the thing I was going to say is because of the fact that you can upscale everything to make it look way better. There are some 3DS games that look fucking phenomenal when playing in emulation. and you don't need the bottom screen at all, so you're losing nothing by having a single screen. And even if you wanted a second screen, you could press a single button and there's the second screen. And then you can press that same single button again and the second screen goes away.
I think you're being way too optimistic on that.
I mean, I've played it. I've literally played it. It's super easy. Like emulation on the with 3DS on Steam Deck is incredibly good.
I'm not disagreeing that the game's going to look better, but I really and you're right. There are certain games, especially even on the 3DS.
There are some games 110% that they are just designed for the 3DS until they were brought to PS4 and PS5. But that's beyond the point. I was going to say Theatrhythm, like Final Fantasy Theatrhythm. That game was designed specifically for the 3DS until it wasn't. So like that was...
Yeah, that happens. But yeah, just it really, and I guess too, you know, the other thing, it really was going to depend on what features they're using for the 3DS too.
Something like Kid Icarus is not going to work like outside of the original 3DS. Like that is 100% correct. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. Kid Icarus is specifically designed for the 3DS and nothing else.
And see, that one I would almost be like, oh, it might be better with a controller.
And you are right, but the way it's designed, where you have to press the touchscreen to be able to like control your reticule, like there are ways to do it, but it's still a bit finicky compared to the original, in my opinion. Like the actual combat elements of it, like, you know, just swinging the club, swinging the this, that, and the other, whatever, all that good jazz. Yeah. Way easier with an actual controller, and but when it comes to aiming, it's a little bit more of a pain in the ass.
That one used the Circle Pad Pro.
I do not think it ever used Circle Pad Pro.
Oh, shit.
I think specifically that one does not.
It does support it.
Was it added? Because it was not in at launch.
Oh, you know what, though? I think the Circle Pad may have been for lefties instead of using it as two joysticks.
It does. Yep, it is. It is lefty mode instead of two joysticks.
Okay.
That is such a Nintendo thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
That's so fucking stupid.
That game could use a remake.
I would love a remake of that game. That game is great.
Yeah, it is. It's fantastic. And the story is just insane.
It's a looter shooter.
Yeah, it really is. All right. What else do you want to talk about? Anything else?
No, not really. I mean, I've been seeing that apparently like Fallout's getting a massive resurgence because of the TV show. Have you watched the TV show yet?
We almost sat down to watch it again.
I've heard nothing but good things from everyone that's watched it.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, awesome. And also, now a lot of people are just, like, checking out Fallout. And Fallout's been, like, the continuous top seller. Surprisingly, the game in Fallout that has sold the most since the TV show came out is Fallout 76.
Oh, interesting.
And not only that, right? But apparently, it's so much better now that I think they had, like, either 1 or 6 million players at once in the servers like last week. But either way, it was over 1 million players in the servers of Fallout 76.
Yeah, it's been doing very well. Topically, just because I saw it today, I did see something they were talking about how just despite the fact that Starfield's so much newer, Fallout's just absolutely crushing it on user numbers.
Yep.
So
yeah. Here's the thing. I mean, there was also the Fallout 4 update that I think just came out last week as well. So it was like all really good timing. But also Starfield just kind of sucks. So it doesn't matter at the end of the day.
Hey, maybe it'll be better with the DLC.
I doubt it.
Trying to be optimistic, Brandon.
I cannot. I actually played the game, so it's a little bit more difficult for me to be optimistic about it.
Fair. Anyways,
when you make a game that's worse than the one you made in 2011 and has less features, that's when I think you need to take a step back and not make another game for a little while.
Maybe this new expansion will have all the features.
Maybe.
Everyone you could have ever wanted for. Anyways, you ready to wrap up?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Well then. Thank you everyone for listening to us tonight. Don't forget to find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google, Amazon, wherever you get your podcasts. You also reach out to us if you want, gamecrunchcast@gmail.com. Send us an email. Or you can check out all of our old episodes at game-crunch.com. Brandon.
Hi.
Any final thoughts?
Nah, I'm good.
Okay. That's it. My name is Mike Anastasia. You can find me online. I'm Clash Penguin there, or on your favorite gaming console. Until next week, game on.
Game on.
Game time. Game on. Hit play. Feel the beat. Let's dive in. Mike and Brandon on the scene. Oh, with that Game Crunch flow. Talking bites, chips and screens, console tales and pixel dreams. It's the Game Crunch. Time to turn it up. Friends gather round with their cups filled up. Mike's got the know-how. Brandon's got the tone. When they hit the mic, it's game on. Game on.
Oh, I did not know about this. Jackbox Naughty Pack.
Mm.
It was just announced yesterday. I wonder if that's what they're doing instead of Jackbox Party Pack 11. So it's apparently it's an M-rated Jackbox game. Interesting.
Oh, interesting.
Mm-hmm. I guess the new Endless Ocean's been getting super shitty reviews.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, but at least from
Why
what
is
I
it
was
getting
looking,
shitty reviews?
well, I think IGN gave it a 4 out of 10. I think
Oh, God.
their concern was too much water.